that cars don't pass on the turn, but we know now they do.
Bobby Rahal comes in, makes a stop. This is under green, and one would assume not scheduled.
Well, Bobby, the other thing about that pass, and the only guy that we're seeing making those passes is Robbie Gordon.
Here's Ari Leyendijk in, so we may be coming up on scheduled passes under green flag. For example, Leyendijk made his last stop on lap 22. So it looks like these cars are thirsty once again. John Andretti, boy, what a story. When he's done here at Indianapolis, it's off to Charlotte Motor Speedway for another 600 miles of racing in a stock car. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Scott Goodyear, you're out of the race. What does this do for your mindset for the rest of the IndyCar season?
Well, it's been tough this month. There's no doubt about it. Everybody in the Budweiser team has given it all, but you know, you put so much emotion and so much heart into this deal. It's just, it's been draining this month.
See him in a week, Paul, at Milwaukee.
You see Robbie Gordon just a second ago as the car gave a pretty good twitch. He caught it, kept going.
Paul, just a quick deal on John Andretti. You know, when he finishes 500 miles here and is looking at another long race in Charlotte, that's going to really be tough. The only rest he's going to have is on the airplane getting there. That's really going to be bad.
And Bobby, if this race runs long, he planned for this race to be 3 hours and 10 minutes the way last year's was, but this race is running much slower than last year's race, so he's going to have very little envelope there.
Jerry Punch, an update on John.
Exactly, talking about his tough schedule. In fact, they have done some calculations here in the John Andretti pit, and this race has to average 150 miles per hour for him to be able to make it to Charlotte to run the 600. And right now, it is going to be very, very close if this race stays under 150 mile per hour average.
Averaging 139.7 now. John Andretti, the 33 car, is 24.1 seconds behind the leader of the race. There is Raul Boesel. Black flag is now out for Scott Sharp.
Bobby, one other thing I'd like to say about John. The hardest part is, of course, that the mental drain that you get from running in the Indianapolis 500 really takes its toll. And now to turn on again and go do a 600-miler at Charlotte is going to be awful difficult.
Yeah, Danny, and these drivers live this race for about 3 days after it's over. So it's going to be harder from that standpoint, too.
The blue and white car that we're watching here, coming by on the inside, Jacques Villeneuve. You see him making a terrific pass. That's the highest placed rookie in the field. He has just moved into third place. Son of Gilles Villeneuve, the great French-Canadian driver who was killed in Formula One in 1982, as we see Little Al headed for the pits.
This should be a routine stop as well, but remember, he stalled on his last stop. He runs in second place.
Yeah, but Bobby and Sam and Paul, I don't think you were going to see him stall again. He did it once. I don't think we're going to see it again.
Roger radioed some instructions to him about getting out of the pits.
Well, Danny, I don't think we're going to see the same problem because Roger Penske did counsel all the drivers about trying to keep their revs up just a little bit more when they take off. He comes awfully close, and he does again.
What was that?
He's got it refired again, but he actually rolling forward is what saved him. Now, Emerson Fittipaldi comes down to the pit road for a Penske tandem here. Let's see, no changes on Emerson, no changes on Al Jr.'s car. They are going to make no changes on Emerson Fittipaldi's car either. The big question mark is with this new Mercedes, are they going to be able to exit the pits without stalling? Let's listen.
You know, Jack, these two cars are set up an awful lot different aerodynamic. I talked to Emmo and the Little Al last night. One of them's going, Emmo's going with light downforce. Little Al is going with heavy downforce.
I think Penske has more confidence of his cars on the track than he does in the pits. There's Jacques Villeneuve again, running in third right now.
Now, but with those stops, Jacques Villeneuve moves to the front of the field. And Jack Arute, both times the Penske cars came out of the pits, there was an unusual sound. What was it?
Paul, it beats me. I think it may be just the sound of the Mercedes engine as it starts to come up. Now, remember, when we listened to the sound of Al Jr., he literally stalled the car, but the rolling momentum, he had enough forethought to be able to keep going and disengage the clutch. It caught at the last minute. He fired it up, and he left.
Jacques Villeneuve leading the race reminds me, this is a rookie, and back in 1983, a rookie, Teo Fabi, also led much of the early stages of the Indy 500. The crew chiefs were the same. The man's name is Barry Green. He's masterminding this rookie's run today.
Well, Jacques Villeneuve picked up the lead of the race only as he crossed over the line and was scored at the last lap, but he did not catch Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi was coming out of the pits, but Jacques Villeneuve appears to be the leader. We're going to check scoring because there seems to be a question. Is it Villeneuve or is it Emerson Fittipaldi? We'll be back. We're back at Indianapolis, where Jacques Villeneuve has made his pit stop, taking him out of the lead. And right now, he's trying to hang on to the leader lap. That's Fittipaldi that's lined up just behind him. Fittipaldi trying to get around him.
Of course, the big story here is he wants to get around because he puts him down a lap. That way, he wouldn't have to worry about him.
You take the look back. We're looking for Raul Boesel, who has a second-place car. A long interval, and there he is as Raul slows down to come into the pits. Everybody making stops under green. One of those who made a stop was John Andretti, who stalled it as he tried to come out of the pits, but then got going. But it dropped John down to 13th position. So those stalls have been very costly today. And now Raul Boesel heads for Jackaroo.
The Dick Simon crew beginning to go to work. They're going to try and do it as methodically as possible. Raul Boesel, the last report, Paul, was he may be encountering some radio problems. So far, the stop is going just as expected. Let's listen. Now, the one thing, Paul, you can notice there, he kept the revs up. You could hear the engine was much higher in 15.8 seconds.
So Raul Boesel is in and out. Danny Sullivan, that's quite a balance that they have to achieve there when they come out of the pits, because that clutch is very small and pretty easy to burn out, isn't it?
Well, that's right, and you got pretty tall gears in these things. You just want to get them going. You don't want to spin them too much. You'll heat up the tires too fast. You'll take some rubber off them, and you don't want to abuse that clutch. You just remember, you got to make maybe 9 or 10 stops during the day. You need it a lot later.
So at Indianapolis, the Mercedes are back in front of the field again. Fittipaldi and Alonso Jr. Jacques Villeneuve has dropped to 3rd place. Jimmy Vasser is 4th. Bobby Rahal 5th. Scott Brayton 6th. Nigel Mansell is 7th. 8th is Michael Andretti. And here is that ongoing battle between Gordon and Boesel. Boy, they love to fight with one another.
This time he passed him on the inside. I'll bet you Boesel thought he was going to do the outside again, Paul.
Well, I think, too, Bobby, I don't believe he was really up to speed enough. You know, he just come out of the pits, and Raul had done a couple of laps on his tires. He was probably a little faster.
Let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, let's show you what they did with Raul Boesel's car. They said they changed the stagger. Now, we'll take you back through what stagger means. That's the circumference on the outside tire and on the inside tire. If you have more circumference on the outside, the car will automatically turn left. What they did on Raul Boesel's car is they closed up the stagger. That means they lessens the difference between the two circumferences to try and make it handle better.
And what that means is they want the rear end a little bit tighter and the front end to push a little bit more.
See, the track, of course, is changing from moment to moment, too. Every time the driver comes out of the pits, he has a full fuel load. The car feels different than when he was out there last. And as the day wears on, rubber gets in the groove. The way the car handles on the track changes.
Now here's something to consider. This car, Raul Boesel, ran 6 laps, 15 miles longer than the Mercedes between stops. As Bobby Rahal moves around Jimmy Vasser and picks up 4th place. So Rahal working his way steadily toward the front.
Paul, he's gone through a lot already today with those accidents happening just in front of him. I'm sure he's very pleased and the thing's going according to plan.
Danny, don't you sometimes feel when you survive a couple of accidents early on, it's almost like it's your day? We heard that Bobby Rahal had a strange feeling about this race, that something special and good might happen to him after all the problems he's had in qualifying the last 2 years.
Sam, you're absolutely right, especially when you've dodged a few bullets like that, made a great move across the grass. Everything's feeling pretty good. And if this guy who's struggled all month long just to get in the show is now running up in the top 5, he's looking good. Gary, down to you.
Adrian Fernandez, one of the 9 rookies in this race. Tell us about this day, the conditions, your first experience at Indianapolis.
Well, it's just a sad day for us. The Tecate and the Quaker State team with Gallus Racing and all the mechanics have done a great job with the car. The car was working really great, and it was those days, you know, this day was not too mean for us, and I had a blown tire, I think, in one of the accidents. Every accident was happening just right in front of me, and it just happened, and I just couldn't get it to the pits with the tire blown. It just spun me out and stalled the engine.
Well, his first experience, not a pleasant one. We'll see you again next week, Milwaukee.
Thank you.
Paul?
So the Penske cars, Mercedes-Benz powered, run first and second, Emerson Fittipaldi, and 14 seconds back, Al Unser Jr. And then the fastest rookie in the field, Jacques Villeneuve, and then Bobby Rahal. We'll return with more of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
I love.
We're back in Indianapolis. Al Unser Jr. there runs in second place. Nigel Mansell sitting just ahead of him, trying to keep from going down a lap. Currently runs in 7th position. The leader of the race is Emerson Fittipaldi. So the Penske cars continue their dominance here. The Mercedes-Benz has actually led between Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi all but 2 laps of this Indianapolis 500. Now, let's take a look at the Valvoline running order after 74 laps. With Fittipaldi, Unser Jr. at the top. We'll look down through the entire field here. We're averaging 155 miles an hour, so not anywhere near a record, and that's dropping off fairly quickly. One car that just stopped was Michael Andretti. He, of course, is out of sequence as he had to come in after that restart to change tires because he had a tire going flat.
The overall race pace is slower this year, Paul, but the speed on the track is faster. Emerson Fittipaldi has been 220 his fastest lap, and his top speed was 244 on the straight. That's fast.
Other people that we are tracking, Lynn St. James, of course, spent a long time in the pits and currently runs 26. Let's go down to Jerry Punch.
Dominic Dobson, your 7th Indy start was a short one here today. What happened out there?
Well, it sure was. It was disappointing because the Pac West Columbia helicopter car was running well. We were poised to get up into the top 10, and I just passed Hideshu Matsuda and was trying to get by Mike Groff, and I think something happened, and we just both spun and hit the wall. I don't know if we touched each other or someone said he may have blown a tire. I haven't seen the tape, so I can't honestly say, but it was a short end and a very discouraging way to get put out of the Indy 500.
You seem to be okay, but you spoke with Mike Groff inside the hospital?
I did speak with Mike. He's okay. He's a little banged up, and I'm sure he's upset, just like I am. But, you know, this is racing, and this track is very difficult to pass on. The groove is narrow, and it's just almost impossible for 2 cars to go side by side.
Good news for Groff and Dobson. Both going to be okay, guys.
Gary, what a gentleman Dominic Dobson is. He could easily have laid the blame at the feet of Mike Groff and didn't. He reported his condition instead. That's terrific.
And also, one of the things that I like to hear there, and he would have said it, I don't think that they made contact. He said, I couldn't feel it. That means if they did, it was so light. It was very, very light. And that's a good sign, too. That's good guys racing very close together.
Yeah, you know, Danny, sometimes the excitement causes you to forget because we could see smoke between the tires.
Well, that's true, but was it when they just touched and Groff started to lose or not? But it was a good sign that they both have the respect for each other, and I don't think anybody was trying to do anything wrong there.
Let's get an update on Scott Brayton's run now. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, very quietly, he's been a pretty impressive run today. The drama, of course, with his teammate Cheever and the black flag after Eddie had gotten up to 3rd, put him way back. Brayton runs 6th. John Menard says the car's working beautifully. They did put a little more wing in it on the last pit stop for a little better bite. Also, we understand that Nigel Mansell's having a bit of difficulty, the boost fluctuating, going up and down. So his woes continue.
In fact, Scott Brayton is in the middle of a good little battle to watch. He's got Jimmy Vasser just ahead of him, and Nigel closing on him from behind. So let's keep track of this, which is an ongoing battle for 5th place if you count Jimmy Vasser's position.
Well, you can watch Nigel Mansell going down the straightaway, drafting, trying to get a run, and whipping out going into the turn right at the last minute. Now, that's something the Mercedes have not had problems with. They don't have to draft that much. They just whip out like this and go by.
Vasser is the car, the blue and white car on the left that Mansell just ripped by.
And do you think that he remembers